So I was gonna say good morning, but it just kicked over, so it's good afternoon now. So, what are we talking about today? What day is today? We're 20-something days in. Hey, Champ Frog, good to see you.
Hi.
Hi. So today we're talking about role models. Who are your role models, and what makes them people you look up to? That's the question, as we have it phrased. So I have some notes about role models and why they're important, and also what you would do to want to be a role model to someone. And then also we're going to go over, Master Hurricane sent us some stuff about types of role models, which was a comprehensive list I had never seen before, which is very, very cool. These are my stuff, and then that's that. So,
For the folks that took the risk and had the courage to walk through the door yesterday, thank you so much for coming through. It was such a pleasure seeing you and meeting you in person, both of you.
mm-hmm.
What an incredible evening yesterday started out as. I mean,
It did.
Just
It was,
from the beginning all the way to the
Right.
end. It was.
It's really amazing when one walks in and says hi, like, and you don't. God, it's like amazing. God, it's like amazing. You don't. Amazing to meet you. Well, we had that experience. Very heartwarming. You don't. It's like amazing to meet you. Really pretty incredible. And really pretty incredible. But to the area are more than welcome to come join us for our in-person events.
Anytime.
Master Hurricane, we can't be here in the States. Why are role models important?
You want to read?
Yeah, go ahead.
You tap, I'll read.
Okay.
We don't usually give this much thought, but role models give us our most important life lessons, with their actions having a profound influence over us. Think back, and you'll likely remember a time, be it good or bad, when you've imitated someone who you looked up to, be it a sports star or similar. The fact that role models are most impressionable on children and young people is at the very core of why they're so important. Positive role models influence our actions, often in the form of imitation, and motivate us to try for the standards they have set. It's for this reason that role models are important. A good role model can sometimes influence a child or young person, even more so than parents can. What does a role model do? The effects of a positive role model cannot be overstated, especially when it comes to their impact on children. Let's take a look at some of the things that a role model does. Inspire and motivate. Role models have the passion, ability, and platform to inspire generations to come, which is why most role models try to set a good example. Children, young people, and adults all face challenges, and seeing their heroes face their own challenges and bounce back can be a source of inspiration and motivation.
Yeah. Are we just reading or are we commenting?
Yeah. That one's big.
Yeah.
Me. That one hit me. This is especially true for people who face forms of discrimination, be it because of a disability, their sexuality, or race. In instances such as these, role models can help to inspire faith and confidence in people who achieve their goals despite the obstacles in their way. For example, an athlete with disability who goes on to win a world championship will play an important role to someone with a similar disability who feels they can't achieve their goals.
Yeah.
Good behaviors and habits. As we've already mentioned, role models can help to instill good behaviors and habits in people, especially young children who are constantly learning. Most children look at their parents as role models, so it's very important that parents are seen setting an example to develop habits, important habits in their children. For example, if you're with a child and you drop a piece of litter, you wouldn't ignore it because you'd be aware that your child might follow suit. I've seen that a million times. Setting and achieving goals. Role models provide a template for success and can help people set and achieve ambitious goals, often modeling the type of behavior required to reach their goal, even if it's in a totally different field. For example, a child who grows up with a parent working hard and achieving their dreams will be more likely to replicate that success.
And of course, in all of these things, there's an or not.
Yeah. I just want to take a note.
And of course, in all of these things, there's an or not.
Yeah. I just want to take a note.
Yeah.
All right. How do you get a role model?
I like it.
We've explored what a role model is, why they're important, what they do, and now to find out how you can be a good role model. These are just a strong role model. Take care of yourself. Getting the basics is always important, which is why making healthy lifestyle choices is fundamental if you want to be a good role model. Making sure you're getting enough exercise, eating the right foods, and getting enough sleep are some of the things that go towards living a healthy lifestyle. These might only seem small, but to a child or someone who looks up to you, they can make a huge difference and set some solid standards. Be open about your life. Everyone makes mistakes, which is why it's important not to hide things that you've done in your lifetime or that you're ashamed of. Being open about the mistakes you've made and how you rectify them is an important way to teach humility to those who look up to you. Making yourself a perfect role model might seem like a good idea, but it sets an unrealistic standard which can feel unachievable to anyone who looks up to you. Start early. It's never too early to be a role model, especially if you're a parent. Start teaching good values and leading by example from a young age. For example, if your child hits another child, let them know that it's not okay. Explain why it's not okay, and tell them what consequences there will have. Right? Because anyway, remember, it's never too late. Sibling with a habit of way. Role models can inspire people of all ages. And the last one that I'm going to read. Be a good listener. Don't feel like you have to be teaching all the time. Remember, being a good role model to your children, friends, or anyone else can mean being a good listener. Everyone has something to say, but by considering what other people say, you can show the value of listening and learning. What's more, you might learn something that makes you a better role model, so it benefits you along with those who look up to you. Stay positive. Staying positive is an important and valuable characteristic, and one that your child or anyone who looks up to you will benefit from. Whenever you face a challenge, try to remain positive. That doesn't mean be unrealistic, but try to face the challenges for what they are, a challenge, and not the end of the world. Keep it real. Keeping it real is important. Being a role model means trying to be a good person and leading by example. However, there are going to be times when you're angry, and that's okay too, because even role models have spells where they're not a superhero. As long as you deal with negative emotions and feelings in a sensible way, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to show you're only human.
Wow, there's so much stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's almost like we need to go back and redo it.
So, the question of the day is, who are your role models in the body? Right, and we just set a list of reasons why people can be role models, right, and how to become a role model.
Right.
And then here you have types of role models.
And I thought this was
8.
Solid.
This is awesome. Holy crap.
Thank you, Master Herb.
So, let's jump into the comments real quick. Make sure we didn't miss anything.
Yeah, for sure. Mostly everybody's saying hi, which I think is awesome. Because everyone's become so friendly.
Let's see. And it's in an opposite way for me. My parents were away for work a lot and missing out on our lives. Yeah. I really like your broadcast. Maybe I can help you. Can you follow me and chat with me? Thank you, Victory Team. Let's see. Awesome. Anytime, enjoy research. And then on Instagram, we want to make sure. Hi, everyone. Hi, Instagram. All right.
Everyone just logging in on Instagram. One of the things that stands out to me right away is, at least I can look back at my parents and say, I don't think that they were aware. I was sort of raised with a do as I say, not as I do kind of model, right? So whatever my parents said was what I was supposed to do. And then, I don't know, I was just supposed to ignore whatever it was they were doing. And it doesn't work that way, right? Like, children especially model behavior. They model what they see, how they see you be in the world. Not because you say be a good person or whatever they say. It's like, how do you act in the world? And I certainly don't think my parents knew that.
Mine were always at work.
Mm-hmm.
So the influence that I got from them was working hard to support.
Right, to support your family.
To provide.
Right.
And we were talking about this for the last couple of days now, and we spoke about the absence of affirmations and how that's your responsibility to perform X, Y, and Z. And it's like there's a trade-off for the loss, right? Because there's a lot of things I learned from being raised that way, but there was a lot of things I lost being raised that way.
Right.
And it's almost like you can only fill one bucket.
I was gonna say, I mean, parents being only people, right? There's only so much. I mean, they're not superheroes. Whatever that was thing about superheroes, right? Like, although I think of that TV show where that was that evil dad superhero. Superheroes aren't always a
invincible.
Invincible, yeah. Where the dad turned out to be like a psycho superhero. But
or Bad Boys now. The boys.
The boys, right? Yeah. Well, they're all crazy, but that's a crazy show.
I love that show.
But yeah, like, I think for me, my mom died. My stepmother, I couldn't relate to, and she was a good person. She tried hard, but my dad was who I adored, and my dad was not really a very good role model in the end. At the end of the day, like, he really did believe in just do what I say, and like just ignore, don't pay attention to what I'm doing over here, and it doesn't really work that way. At least it didn't for me. But it did make me look. I didn't know I was looking for role models. I don't even know that I knew what a role model was. I just knew there were other adults that I wanted to be like more, which is the definition, I guess, of a role model, right? There was a woman in my neighborhood, a mom of a family, and I was thinking about that part where we talked about listening, right? Like, kids don't get listened to. Children should be seen and not heard. I was raised with that, right? Go in the corner, like, go over there and play. Like, don't come over here and bother the adults. That was what I was raised with, right? So we learned not to talk about real things, and we were never really listened to. And of course, by the time I was 8, 9, 10, I had a lot going on. And so this other mom in the neighborhood where my dad left times when he couldn't take care of us, she would listen to me. And I remember it being like such a fulfilling experience to feel like what I had to say had value to someone, because she just listened to me. It's not even she like treated me all that like any sort of way. It was just that she listened to me, and it made me feel like I mattered. And that's a big deal to a kid, I think, to just feel like that whatever it is you have to say. Kids are not geniuses at 10 and 11. Oh, maybe you were, okay. But, it's like we're not always going to say great, profound things, and sometimes we're not going to make sense, but just the act of listening creates the feeling like whatever it is you do say, like, you matter.
Yeah.
Like, even if you say things that are not all that don't matter that much, it's just feeling like you matter. And I think that's really an incredible value to a kid, right? And then I had role models I looked up to. Like, I learned how to play guitar and I sang. And there was an artist that, Joni Mitchell, for anybody who knows her or remembers her, she had a beautiful voice, and she wrote all her own music, and she was an incredible musician, and I looked up to her. I listened to her music over and over again. I can tell you to this day, all first 6 albums of hers, I know all the songs and all the words. And so anyway, it was a big deal.
That's cool, Mama. So let's read the types of role models. Role models can be categorized into several distinct types, each serving a unique purpose in guiding and inspiring individuals. Understanding these types can help individuals select role models that align with their personal goals and values. 1. Positive role models. These role models whose success, values, and behaviors are worthy of imitation. They exemplify qualities that inspire others to achieve their goals. For instance, successful athletes like Michael Jordan, or the one who follows second, LeBron James.
Not that you have any strong opinions about it.
No, that's a whole thing between basketball. I really don't watch basketball, but it's pretty fun.
But you knew.
But I knew.
I knew about that.
Serve as positive role models for aspiring basketball players due to their accomplishments and work ethic. Michael Jordan. Reverse role models. Reverse role models are those who have achieved success but whose values and behaviors may not align with what one aspires to emulate. Observing these individuals can provide valuable lessons on what not to do in order to avoid negative outcomes. For example, a successful business leader who engages in unethical practices might serve as a reverse role model by highlighting the importance of integrity.
I was thinking that there's some musicians that are like that too. Musicians that are really famous, but have, in their private lives, they maybe don't do things that you want to emulate.
Yeah. Anti-role models. Anti-role models are individuals who have not achieved the desired level of success despite being on a similar career path. Studying their failures can help others identify potential falls and blockers to success. This type of role model emphasizes the importance of avoiding detrimental behaviors such as entitlement or self-pity. Process and workflow role models. These role models inspire individuals through their creative processes and workflows. They demonstrate effective methods for tackling projects that resonate with one's own values and goals, encouraging personal growth in how one approaches work. Self-advocacy role models. These role models effectively represent themselves and up needs, providing frameworks for others to do the same. Their ability to navigate challenges while maintaining self-respect serves as an inspiration for those looking to assert themselves more confidently. Impact role models. Impact role models are those whose overall effect on others aligns with the type of impact one wishes to have in their own life. They may excel in advocacy, mentorship, or community engagement, demonstrating how positive influence can manifest in various forms. Evolution and longevity role models. I laughed inside too, and then outside. These individuals showcase continuous growth and adaptation throughout their lives or careers, inspiring others to embrace change and innovation rather than stagnation. Meaning role models. These role models provide guidance on life's philosophical questions regarding purpose and meaning, helping others navigate complex decisions about identity and values. By recognizing these different types of role models, individuals can better identify sources of inspiration that resonate with their aspirations across various aspects of life. Master Hurricane, that was solid.
Yeah. Wow, that was a lot. But it also made me realize that I have way more role models than I think I did.
Jose said Hulk Hogan, and we all know how that came out.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. So, who else has been a role model? Now that we have a list of 8 types of role models.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, and you guys too. Like,
yeah, no.
If you heard model structures, throw 2 in that you resonate with, that you can identify in your life.
Yeah. For instance, this last one, meaning role models. My stepmother's best friend was a woman named Joan, and Joan was a philosophy instructor. Joan knew my mother, and that's how we all ended up meeting. But she taught at the university. She was super smart. She knew a lot. She knew a lot about things like philosophy and these like higher-minded things that I really admired and I really wanted to know more about. But she was also kind. She and my mom used to go around. My mom hooked up with her to. It was when the Stages of Grief came out. The Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross book came out, and Joan was doing work trying to teach nurses who were on terminal wards how to deal. Ross book came out, and Joan was doing work trying to teach nurses who were on terminal wards how to deal with terminal patients. And my mother went to a lecture once for a partnership where they went around together, and my mom made herself available to like answer questions for the nurses and let them know like how she felt and how she wanted to be treated. Because I told you in another call, like that was not what happened in the day. But Joan would like sit with me and talk with me about things, and I could ask her questions about, my dad stopped being able to help me with anything intellectual, like by the 6th grade, right? So Joan was like college educated and knew a lot. So she was a meaning role model for me, and I didn't even think about that till you read that.
I'm here writing a list now that I have all these different perspectives of influence. Just trying to go throughout my life and point them out.
Yeah.
I mean, I had uncles and stuff, and you could say they were role models in what it meant to be accepting a family, to feel received, to feel their friendliness and acceptance as it is carried into society. It was like they're really nice people.
Oh.
I mean,
That's
they
cool.
weren't. I mean, we're Puerto Rican and Mexican, right? It's like growing up as kids, we got put in our place and we got hit and stuff like that, and that was part of the culture.
Yeah.
At the same time, they were still, because all the uncles did it, right? It's like all the parents, at the same time, they were still, because all the uncles did it, right? It's like all the parents handled their kids.
Right.
That didn't have a negative connotation, as that was what was required to maintain discipline in the household, right? And
Maybe that would have been easier for me if that had been the way it was.
it's not like that. Like, there's a difference between discipline and someone taking out their anger.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But it was not discipline in my case. It was punishment, which for me was different.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
was a wait till your father gets home, because we had done something, and then the terror of waiting, however many hours it was between the time mom had decided we had done something wrong, and then waiting for dad to come home to spank us. To this day, I can call up those feelings. I literally cried till I threw up. It was so humiliating to me. That was the feeling. I didn't know what that feeling was when I was a kid, but it felt so humiliating to me to be put over my dad's knee and spanked. I hated it. I had no way of describing how badly I hated it. So it didn't feel like part of what we did or part of our culture. It just felt like a standout thing that you got happened to you because you had been bad or deserving or had done something that was upsetting to mom.
Yeah.
Part of the challenge for me about it is I didn't know how to keep it from happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. That it wasn't like there was a rule or discipline.
Exactly.
Right. It was like a random.
Was
Mom
it
got
you
mad.
or was it an inconvenience to her?
Right, and there was no way to know. And
Yeah.
right, so it almost, when I hear you talk about it, I'm like, how much less jarring would it have been? Not that anybody necessarily needs to hit their kids, and I don't mean that, but as part of a structure like of discipline in the house, I've never heard anybody say that before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, granted, for me, it was the pain.
of being hit.
Being hit, and that
Well,
shit hurt.
they didn't know later how bad you are at that.
It is. It's like, I don't want to feel that type of sting. I still don't like
you
it.
still don't. You still don't.
And it just hurts my skin. Anyway, so moving on from childhood, right?
Right,
I'm
right.
thinking about teachers.
Yeah.
And they're teachers. It wasn't until high school that I came across some teachers that I could say, saying they were role models. Some teachers that I could say a role model to me in one way or another. Because junior high school, I don't remember much of elementary school, but junior high school felt very procedural, right? And it just didn't feel real. And then high school is when the deans, right? The deans were the jiu-jitsu, part of the jiu-jitsu guys, right? They were all three. One was Dominican, two Dominican, one was I want to say Puerto Rican or Colombian. So we earned jiu-jitsu from the deans, and then we get into fights during the day and stuff like that, and we get sent to the dean's office, and they'd be like, "What happened? Get in the office." And then I'll get in the office, and they'd be like, "Hey, what happened? So did you win?" And I only got suspended one time.
So it was almost like being in the in club.
Hey, 100%.
Wow.
100%.
Yeah, no, I got sent to the principal's office. There was no in club there.
And it's like, I enjoyed their energy. I enjoyed what they stood for, because they were martial artists and they carried a particular level of discipline and accountability
And then the rest of the time, were they in school? Were they like role models in terms of the way
100,
that they behaved? Like
100%.
they had that, because when you don't know about martial arts, you hear about this sort of honor and
Yeah, but
quality
they
around
weren't
that.
they weren't like sensei walking down, like they were like big cousins. It was Mr. Castillo, Mr. Guzman, and the other one, Mr. I don't remember the other guy's name, but it was those two guys in particular.
Yeah.
The other guy had a fallout, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But they were. I wanted to be a cool adult like them.
It makes them a role model. For sure. I had a 5th grade role model as I'm listening. It's like all these people keep
It starts coming up. Yeah.
coming up, yeah. Yeah, Ms. Moskowitz was her name. And she was so cool. There's a few things I remember about her. She used to have hand lotion that smelled like apricots, and it was so yummy smelling, and she put it on in the middle of the day. And then on her desk, she had a bowl of candy. And we were allowed at any point to come up and get a piece of candy if we wanted one, as long as we weren't greedy, as long as we were polite, we were quiet. It felt empowered, being empowered, little people. Felt like you were important enough, and if you could behave, then you could. Oh, that was amazing. Those are the two things I remember most about her. She was also she was cool people. She wasn't like, man, teacher. She was like trying to be, not our friend, but trying to be like an adult that said like, you know, kids could be cool too. So I like that.
Kinky Alchemist says 2 university professors changed the course of my life forever. Challenged the indoctrination I was getting pulled into by Christian fundamentalists. 5 years in the church and they got me out.
Yes.
Wow, beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah, my challenging relationship with religions didn't happen until I was an adult. I mean, I was able to walk away from Catholicism all by myself. Yeah. So I would say that, like, I have to read through them again. Oh, process and workflow role models. My first job in a high-end restaurant where I got to be a manager, the general manager that I worked for was really, really good at what he did. And he was really, really good at teaching. So he would take time to sit down with me and explain to me what it meant to be a good manager, like we had a server that was a real challenge. She wasn't really doing well. She had a bad attitude. And he sat down with me and explained, like, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to sit with her and we're going to, go over her issues and her shortcomings. And then we're going to give her an opportunity to get better. And if she doesn't get better, we're going to document it this way. And it's like he laid out that whole flow of how to appropriately deal with employees. And I was in my early 20s, like learning how to be a good manager from a manager who was really good at it. Some of those lessons stand with me to this day. And they've influenced anytime I've had a restaurant job or been a manager, or even like a lead trainer, which I've done all them. These lessons have stayed with me.
To think of I come back Staff Sergeant Eisworth, who I was in the Marines with. And he showed me what it was. Supporting your men, not being a company man. Like saying no when no has to be said. Standing in your morals.
Even though that's not the status quo.
Especially when it works against you.
Yeah. So did he because you've talked about doing that yourself, did he like give you a role model for what it looked like? Because you've stood up, while you were in the Marines, you've talked about it, where you stood up at times for what you believed was right, even though it went against, what was happening. Did he help influence that for you?
He was one of the few other people I've seen do that.
Yeah.
With his career, like, they forced him out at 20 years because with his career, like, they forced him out at 20 years because and it's such but yeah, because I'm out who was it that in the door for me to say, look in this way.
Right.
And it's hard for me to think about that person because more often than not, I'm the one who starts the conversation.
So you mean, because you always open deep conversations with people, it's part of who you are, so are you trying to dial it back and see where did you learn
Where
that?
did I get it
Who role
from?
model part of who you are, so are you trying to dial it back and see where did you
Where did I
where did you learn that?
Where did I get it
Who role
from?
modeled that for
Or
you?
what happens observing people's behaviors, like Staff Sergeant Eyes were good people, and questioning faith, like I have through all that time, and seeing their behaviors to influence my behaviors. Like there's a math formula in this. The people who I've observed, how they've influenced me, and I think by those actions, seeing how life transforms or evolves, because it's not like I was a bad person then I turned to a good person. It was like I never tried to be a bad person.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like I know I've done bad things, right? But who hasn't? Right? There's no saints out there.
And and that was, as you were reading through the why are role models important and what does it mean to be a good one? Like, it's really important for me that a role model isn't perfect. It's really important to me that a role model is a good person who does good, shows what it's like. I have a lot of that. Like, we talked about that the other day, about making mistakes, being a mistake. Part of the reason why I think those of us that have such a hard time being wrong or having made mistakes is because we didn't have role models to show that mistakes are okay. People who are good make them, and then they know how to work through them. I think that's a really important thing to model for kids.
There's something in here about the authenticity. A role model around authenticity. And I forgot where I read that, because we were talking about mistakes yesterday.
I forget which day it was.
And it's like, to not make mistakes is to stay perfect. But to stay perfect is to stay perfect within the society's boxes.
Yeah.
And not authenticity.
Right.
Where, depending on how the mistake falls and shit like that, right? So there's something happening at the same time where...
No, I think you're right. Authentic people ruffle feathers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then how do they handle that?
Yeah.
Right? How do they handle it when their authenticity comes up against society, the boxes, whatever? Then what do they do? Right? That's a real idea of a role model, right? It's somebody who can model by their behavior how they handle that discrepancy.
There's a lot intertwined. There's a lot intertwined.
I hear you. Samantha says, I also have to say my counselor during the time when I lost my son to suicide. I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm glad you had somebody in your corner. It's a very hard thing to go through.
Authentic people ruffle feathers, both Instagram and TikTok.
I didn't learn anything about authenticity. It was a long time before. I think I tried to be authentic. That was something that I wanted, but I didn't know what it meant, and I didn't have people around me who lived that way. So that was a part of my life that I just sort of fumbled around in the dark about for a really long time.
There was a reverse role model. That was a reverse role model situation when I was in boot camp, and one of the squad leaders and he was saying how I hadn't been a squad leader, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. Well, I was in, and I said, if that's if kissing ass is your pinnacle of leadership,
You actually
I'm
said
not that leader. I'm not that type of leader.
Like, as a recruit, you said that?
Well, we were both recruits.
Oh, okay.
No, we were both recruits. And but he was a tall guy. He did super athlete and shit like that. And I'm fucking 5'5", man. I don't run a 5-minute mile. These guys are monsters. And but he was a follower, and he followed instructions to the T. And so they promoted him because he's one way. I don't believe in getting into leadership by following direct orders.
Right.
Right. That's managing. That's not leading. That's
right. Well, that's whole conversation's the difference between leadership and management.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another whole conversation.
Yeah. Everyone absolutely thinks they're authentic.
But that's what I'm saying, Obsidian. I didn't think I was authentic. I didn't know what it meant to be that. And I think I wanted to be that, but I didn't know how. And I often ran up against feedback that said who I really was when I would dare to express it was not acceptable or was not good or whatever. So I did not think I was authentic, and I didn't know how to even be that way for a really long time.
What was the first time you think you felt it in your body? Authenticity.
Sobriety. When I was after I was sober and I was doing right things for a while, and I was making harder decisions in terms of like ethical, moral decisions, and even when they were hard, I began to get a sense of that I was okay. I don't know that it even means that I thought it was authentic, but I was starting to feel like maybe I was okay, because I certainly didn't feel okay for a really long time. And the truth is I wasn't behaving like I was okay for a long. I did not bad things, but I did dumb things, like for a lot of years, like most of my 20s, I was like, it was all dumb. Because I didn't know any better, and because I was under the influence of a disorder that like messes with your thinking.
You know what? I just got the perfect analogy for authenticity.
What's that?
Authenticity is essentially, you have two types of people. Lego. You have Lego and you have the instruction in the books, and it tells you what it's supposed to look like and where the pieces go.
Okay. Sorry if you can hear the, close the door.
Maybe that'll help a little bit. But then you gotta close the window. You motherfuckers, goddamn. Give me a second. But it's the perfect analogy. Alright, that's better. So, you have... You better be drilling for a minute.
They stopped as soon as you shut everything.
All right, cool. So you have the Lego box and the instructions and the pieces.
Right.
If you follow the book every time, there's nothing authentic about what you do. The minute you change a block, now you're being creative with the tools in front of you. You just copy and paste that over to life. I get up, I go to work, I do my 9 to 5, I pay my bills, I pay my taxes, and I die.
Right.
No authenticity in that.
Right.
There's no authenticity in conformity.
Right.
The minute you deviate is the minute you start to steer into authenticity.
Right.
Can authenticity be something 100% all the time? I guess depending on what you look at it, yes, no, who knows. But the idea is to break out of the mold.
This lays over my yellow brick road thing perfectly to me. When you're inside what I call a picket fence, you don't have to be authentic because everything's prescribed for you, right? And I'm not saying that everybody that gets into the lifestyle, because this is my lifestyle analogy that I use, right? People who have to think about themselves because there's something that's in conflict inside of them with everything they see around them. And then so to make the decision means to begin your journey into authenticity. And I've never connected that journey. Like the starting on that yellow brick road is on the path of authenticity.
It has to be.
Yeah, and that's why.
Where else are you going to start?
Right, and because when people say to me, like, I always feel a greater sense of kinship with people who have stepped out of the yellow brick, they've stepped out of the picket fence, they've stepped out of the societally prescribed way to live and took the chance to begin to pursue that thought, feeling, impulse, whatever that made them different. And usually they're like kinky or whatever. It's like whatever those thoughts and feelings are, and you had the nerve to begin to act. You stepped out, you looked online, you found FET, you went to an event, whatever you did that was like, okay, I'm going to do something now. You're on the path of authenticity, which is not what I've ever called it before.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Cookie cutter, see, fuck. I wrote down a note. I forgot what I wrote. Oh, because you're talking about the yellow brick road. Right. I'm thinking about the road, right?
Right.
Sorry. It's like adults will keep the training wheels on life for a long time before, or staying on the track right? Before,
As adults or as kids?
As adults.
As adults, okay.
as adults, just the fear it takes to step out of that box
Yes.
of comfort, to listen to the voice in your head saying something has to change. All right, back to role models. 8:40, just 12:40.
Wow. These hours are starting to go by so fast.
What about in the community and why?
I was just thinking about Mr. Cyan.
Is the first name on the list.
Right. She embodies to me what it means to be a community leader, right? What it means to be she has an organization like DomCon. She hosts 2 events a year, 2 huge events that are such support and education for an entire group of people. But beyond that, she's like a leader in the leather community in Los Angeles. Like, she keeps up on obligations that keep the community going. And she stays aware of them, and I believe there's an aspect of her that gets a little bit involved with the politics of it, because you kind of have to.
Oh, yeah.
And that stuff always, like, I always want to put my head in the sand about anything that has to do with anything political. But those things are important if we're ever gonna have what we need, if we're gonna have rights, right? I mean, one of the things we always say is, kink and BDSM is nowhere in the LGBTQ. We're not in the list of letters that are protected by law. So if we ever want to be protected as a class of people, somebody's got to get political.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to sit that out, right? So the thing about a role model to me is, maybe I have to step in at some point and get my hands dirty in that arena, because I complain about us not having rights, and I talk about the people who we know who've lost jobs and had their kids taken from them and stuff because they were kinky, and so what am I doing about it? She's a role model for me for what it looks like to actually do something about it.
Yeah, for me, and I start with Mistress Cyan because of her, the way she represents her leather lifestyle.
Yeah.
Her morals and her character. Her doing the legwork, doing what's right, and doing the best of her ability to do what's right all the time, as much as she can.
Yeah.
And when she's wrong, she makes a mistake, and when she needs to set things straight, she sets them straight. She pulls no punches, and she's compassionate.
Yeah. And she's really level-headed. Like, we had a thing come up at one of the DomCons, and she was so calm, and she was so rational. Like, all of the heads, all the emotions were running really high on both sides of the issue, thing. Right? And she very calmly came in and said, "You can calm down, and here's why. And you over here, you can sit down, and that's why." And she never ruffled for a second. It was really amazing to watch.
Yeah.
Really,
yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, no. I won't forget it, because when you were through the roof, and she sat down with you in a way that, like, the people around you can't really speak to you like that, but she stepped in to say, this is how you need to change, you need to slow your roll, and here's why. And her rationale was, because this is what makes you the better person, right? So her whole support for you to change your behavior a little bit was in support of you being the best person you could be.
You can be, yeah.
Right? And that she can see all that and lay it out there is really, like, it's an admirable quality.
Because I wouldn't want to disappoint her.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Right? It's like, because
she does have sort of a maternal kind of, like, you don't want to.
Yeah. Like, I will always call her mistress everywhere all the time.
I don't know that anyone calls her anything else.
Right? It's
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I have a lot of respect for her.
Yeah.
And she's, I would aspire to find her patience in myself.
That would be something to aspire to. She's incredibly
she's
patient.
incredible. She's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a role model to me in the lifestyle. And I don't know if you can want to handle me talking about it, but you are. I can leave it at that if you want me to. But when we were getting to know one another, and when you came in to Decadence and you did what you did, like, you played with people, and you would play with people with no, like, you had no, like, you're like color, shape, size, person blind, right? If a person came in and they were a good person, because you played a lot with people at events all the time, and you would take people and give them an experience with no judgment, right? Like, and people have judgments. People don't want to play with people that they're not attracted to or whatever. And you could see anyone in the room, and with the same amount of like care and connection, you would play with anyone and give them an experience. And that blew me away. Not to mention like watching your skill set, watching you work all the time to improve your skill set. That still inspires me. So that's just a couple things about you. So you've been a role model to me in the lifestyle. There you have it.
Thank you, Mom.
No, it's true. It's true. I have another role model in the lifestyle, but I forget who it is.
So, I mean, I throw you under the bus, and I told you how you inspire me all the time. Just on your leadership and the way you hold space for people, the way you represent the lifestyle and the business side of it, the way you stick up for people and you call people out, or you call people in. Your patience, you have a lot. What? Between you and Mr. Cyan, world peace would happen instantly. Like, but also how you continue to work on difficult things for yourself, and how you don't give up. Your perseverance in everything.
That's true. I was thinking about that on the way back from the grocery store today.
What were you thinking?
Like that I just keep going, no matter what. Right?
You were like, man, I'm good.
No, it's like...
No, I'm kidding.
It's not like that. It's like, some days I think I wish that I could just stop, but I don't know.
And
how.
we will.
That's what I said to myself. I went to say to myself that I would do this until I died, and what I went to say was, I'll just do this until I don't.
Yeah, no, because we're not going to be running at 100 miles an hour the whole time. Like, we've crossed a lot of bridges. We crossed the bridge 2 days ago with the new idea, which we can't tell many people yet.
Because we're still working.
But it'll be coming very, very, very soon. It's
Italy yours.
I want to say it, but I'm not.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe by the end of the month.
By the end of the month, everyone will know it's fucking brilliant. Lace knows, but Lace, you can't say nothing.
And I admire you for that, right? I admire you for your creativity, and I admire you for the fact that you don't ever stop thinking about how to make what we do better, how to make what we do more available to more people, more helpful. We're a partnership because we're not good at the same things, right? like we're each good at what we're good at, and they're not the same things, and thank God, because together, like, we can find our way out of a wet paper bag. Like, we can do some stuff.
Yeah.
So the things that you're good at, like marvel at the things that you're good at. Like that, like the creativeness to come up with what's going to be the next thing. So, anyway.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I know. So let's see. I thought you were going to tell me that the hour was over.
No, we have 12 minutes.
Here's one of the ones that I sort of cringed at when you talked about taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And taking care of yourself as a good role model, right? Like, I didn't have that. This is the smallest thing ever. In my house, we brushed our teeth in the morning. And nobody ever brushed their teeth at night. And later, I found out that people do that. Like, that you brush your teeth at night too. Like, you're supposed to brush your teeth twice a day. Like, I didn't know that. And I think back on it, and it's a ridiculously hard habit for me to want to get into, simply because we didn't do it. I didn't see it anywhere. Right? It's just as simple as that. Like, there's such a difference between what you've seen and what you've been encouraged to do. Like, when parents, like, go in there and brush your teeth. Like, it always seems like such a struggle, but that kid's going to come out of their childhood, and it's not going to be hard for them to want to brush their teeth. Because their parents made them do it, so that it became a habit, so that they could take care of themselves. Right? Like, it's a small thing to take for granted, but eating healthy, getting rest, doing enough exercise to keep your body healthy, those are important things to do. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not always great at that stuff. And I always want to be or think about it, but I didn't have a lot of role model for that stuff either.
So the plan is we're going to do a GoFundMe, and we want to raise $5 million so we can get a place out in the mountains somewhere, and we can ride bike and we can stay healthy, and we don't have to ever do anything again. Deal.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Yeah, as soon as we get a GoFundMe for $5 million.
$5 million. And then you guys can come anytime. And the people who contribute have space.
The truth is like that is a goal. One of my goals in all this time is to get a retreat space. I call it a compound. It's a big piece of property somewhere. There's gonna be a big main house. I'm gonna take all my hospitality skills and run it like a bed and breakfast. There'll be outlying buildings. There'll be a place to make a dungeon. And people will be able to come and be able to do personal retreats. We'll be able to host, group retreats on all kinds of things. Like I've had that dream in my head for like the last several years. And I feel like it's going to happen. I just don't know where and when. So there, I've just said it to you on TikTok and Instagram. From my mouth to God's ears, let's hope. And yes, if anyone wants to step in and help make that dream a reality, there'll be a room with your name on it. Not a problem. You can come anytime you want. And I'm a good cook.
Oh, yeah, she is.
The breakfast part of the bed and breakfast will rock. Anyway, that's a vision that I have. Thank you, Kiki Alchemist. I saw you last night. Yes, from your spirit to the universe. Thank you. Anyway, so.
Yeah, because I wrote down a list of other people, but I had like my drill instructors, Malcolm X.
Who else were role models for me?
I thought I wrote more down. Maybe some other people. Let me come back to the community.
Okay.
Let's see.
I think in some ways you became the role model you couldn't find.
That was my issue when I first came into the community. Was there was no role models and there were no mentors. Nobody worth. I didn't trust anybody.
Right.
And it wasn't until Mr. Cyan that I found someone that spoke the same language. Even when I'd go teach at other places, it was like you guys are still saying the same things, except you just have more information about the technique of it. And it's like,
yeah.
Figuring it out on your own is not easy.
But you did a really good job.
And it's like, it's so important that people have people to look up to, role models, and mentors. It's like that is the most important, and that's life. That's not just kink. It's life. Someone who you can ask the questions that you need to ask. Start with what's the purpose of life. Like start thinking about who you are, what your value is, what makes you feel safe. Aim for that. Aim for people who let you feel safe so that you can be who you need to be. Expressively, internally, in thought, in practice. Find the people who are living the way you want to live, and not materialistically, but the way that they feel, the way they connect, the way they enjoy life and enjoy joy, right?
Yeah.
And recover.
That's a big deal, yeah.
And recover from things that they talk about the mistakes, like being able to say, listen, I fucked up, and this is how I made it through.
Right.
This is what I had to think about. This is what I reflected on, and I realized this is where my faults were.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking too that my husband was a reverse role model. I learned a lot from him, but there were some things about him that were not qualities that I aspired to have. But there were things about him that I absolutely learned from, right? And so it is possible to have a role model where they're not mostly all good,
And
but what they are good at is worth emulating. is worth learning about. And so he was that kind of a person. And
yeah, and there's plenty of those.
Yeah.
Life has a lot of those.
Yeah.
And there is like,
But
there's
it's
the
like
contrast.
don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Just because the person has bad qualities doesn't mean you should dismiss the good qualities.
Yeah. But also the contrast. That's not how I don't want to be like that. And
Right.
One of the first comments in here was about their parents not being role models, but being the opposite.
Right.
And it's like that's a role model too.
It's motivating, at least. It's motivating to see how you don't want to be.
Yeah, and it's easier.
Yeah.
More times than not, it's easier to say, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to have that experience. So let me do the complete fucking opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, the parents being reverse role models, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're almost out of the hour.
Touch the screen so it doesn't freeze because it's gonna do the.
It's gonna do that.
Oh, and then that happens. All right. All right. So, what's tomorrow's question?
Tomorrow is what are your best qualities and what makes them stand out? So y'all need to go home and do some thinking because we're not the only ones going to be talking about best qualities and what makes them stand out for an hour. So you guys are going to have to step into that conversation. I know everybody back there, just everybody. Can we just have the collective groan? Ugh. So for some reason we're all trained to not speak well of ourselves, and I don't know what that is.
No, it's cool. Like we had our mentorship program on Monday, and the affirmation that we closed with was, "What was the last thing you were validated on?" It's like, well, now you got to acknowledge it. You have to
acknowledge that you were validated.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so not only did someone say something good to you, now you have to repeat it, and so that you have to acknowledge that it's true.
Why can't people treat people well?
I don't know.
Like, in a way to lead them down the road. Like yesterday, I went to this All Kings group. All Kings it runs very parallel to what we do. We help people work through shame and reconcile their relationship with identity and sexuality, blah, 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 all that stuff. These guys work with men who are trying to connect and heal their relationship with masculinity. Mm-hmm. Mostly men who have been incarcerated and from low income and low opportunity areas. And to help them find positive masculinity within themselves and to evolve.
That's amazing.
Incredible what they're doing.
Amazing thing to aspire to and to see that and to have value to do in the world.
Yeah, like those guys, role models.
Yeah.
The work that they're doing, role models.
Yeah,
like,
because
very
we throw around toxic masculinity around like every man is guilty of it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's there's toxicity, period. And because if you look at, well, anyway, I go down this other.
Yeah, I know. There's a rabbit hole.
Another one.
Hold on, Master Hurricane. Here came a rabbit hole, and we got no more minutes to go. All right.
So, all right, folks, we will see you. You read tomorrow's question?
Yeah, it's tomorrow's role model. Not role models. Your best qualities.
Best
qualities and what makes them stand out. So go home and think about it. We're gonna go. We got so much to do today. So thank you all for being here. It was great to see all of you, and I think some of you are new. So come back again.